I take a lot of pride in that, and probably the thing I'm most proud of with our organization is just our retention. I mean, every year we have 90+% retention, and that's like unheard of in like retailer hospitality. And
legal weed headlines scream collapse. Yet, one small operator just logged double-digit same-store growth. I'm Jason Reposer, founder of Good Feels, the makers of Good Vibes THC syrup. Today, I sit down with Brendan McKee, COO of Silver Therapeutics, the craft MSO thriving in 4 states and adding 2 more.
It's a wild journey, and it every day is different, and I love it.
He explains how tuning out the competition actually boosts customer loyalty, lays out the ESOP playbook that turns staff into owners, and shows why deep community roots still beat corporate scale. Obstacles
are opportunities, and every hurdle is something, you learn from it. It's definitely been an evolution, and I say it all the time, like, our goal is to just always get better together.
Let's crack the survival code for dispensaries.
My name is Brendan McKee. I am the co-founder and COO of Silver Therapeutics.
All right, fantastic.
Yep.
And what does a COO do?
I'd say just about everything.
Yeah.
I started off as COO and CFO. Fortunately, we brought in like a real CFO. Not that I wasn't a real one, but someone just better than me and a really, really awesome skill set. She's wonderful. But in terms of, everything, man, legal to site visits, to, weekly meetings with managers, meeting with municipalities,
yeah.
It's all encompassing. Yeah.
Yeah. Cause it's operations, and operations means anything that makes the company continue to operate, really. You know what I mean? So it's like COO, cause I think a lot of people, especially in people who are new to business, maybe people listening to this right now might be like, hey, we're like 1 or 2 people in a cultivation room, and that's all we are. We're craft, we're like, a 2,000 square foot canopy or whatever. And they're like, COO, like, what does that even mean, But so Silver, it was Silver Therapeutics. Did you rebrand it? Or I say sometimes Silver Therapeutics, and I know your website is still Silver Therapeutics, but like Silver is like the name of those dispensaries.
So Silver Therapeutics has always been the company.
Okay.
When we expanded into New York, they do not allow the use of word therapeutics as it relates to cannabis use, and so it's too medical for them, apparently.
Yeah.
So we go by Silver Cannabis Company in New York, and in the urban areas that we are open and will open in. So in this case, Roslindale in Boston, we're City Farm. And that was born out of the fact that it was an active nursery. So they were selling flowers, and now we're selling flowers, just different kinds.
Yeah.
And the name of that establishment was City Farm, and it was there for decades.
Right.
And I fell in love with the name right away. And we actually have old signage that we've repurposed.
Nice.
So City Farm was purely born out of the fact that we took over a site that was a nursery named City Farm. And now we're applying that brand, for example, in Brooklyn. We're opening in Greenpoint.
A City Farm.
City Farm, yeah, hopefully in a few months. So between, there's obviously the parent company that oversees everything, but Silver Therapeutics, retail brands in Massachusetts and Maine, Silver Cannabis Company in New York, and then, as I mentioned, City Farm and, the urban areas we open.
Right. So that makes you an MSO, the evil term, MSO, multi-state operator. Do you get ever sick of people being like, oh, MSO this, MSO that? And you're kind of like, do you ever take offense to those LinkedIn posts where people are like, MSOs suck or whatever?
No, everyone's entitled to, have their own opinion about MSOs. We're very much a craft MSO. I'll say that,
I've heard that term from, I think, Brandon from Theory had mentioned that or something like
Interesting,
that. Like craft MSO is really what we like to say.
Yeah, I mean, it's all in the family. It's myself, my 2 partners, all brought together through family. We raised a little bit of money through friends and family, and we have one investor group, and they have a minority stake in the company. So it's, we're the decision makers, and I'm living it every day.
Right. Like you said, you're out in the field even, like
every day,
making sure all the different sites you visit and stuff like that.
Yep. And I come from a family business. So like I take a lot of pride in that. And, probably the thing I'm most proud of with our organization is just our retention. I mean, every year we have 90+% retention, and, that's like unheard of in like retailer hospitality. And we have 100+ employees now, so it's like, it's yes, we're an MSO, but I think we're much different than a lot of the other MSOs.
Yeah, what about, retention is huge. So when it comes to the retention side, are you doing something extra special? I mean, you must have your own like director of HR or something like this at this point, right? Because you're that big.
Yeah, well, we shout out to Kim Bruin at Zendan. We work with her and her team, and she's wonderful. And then shout out to Brian Mullaney on our team. I like to call him the therapist of the organization, and we kind of co-therapy.
Yeah. HR is kind of like therapy for a lot of people.
Totally.
They can't go to the person that they have an issue with sometimes, and they have to go vent to somebody. So HR kind of takes a lot of that kind of weight. Yeah,
Brian takes it. He's such a wonderful, beautiful human, and he's incredibly empathetic, and he definitely takes work home. And I like to call them like Friday check-ins. So I call a lot of like the top people that I work with weekly, and how you doing? How was your week? Anything that we need to know going into the weekend, or and he's just always positive despite the fact that I know he's kind of holding some of the emotions in that he has to feel but fortunately we don't have a lot of issues, and we've gotten much better at identifying issues and addressing them immediately.
Good Vibes is more than a product, it's your cannabis toolkit. Drop it into your drink, mix it into tea, kick up your mocktail, or just pop it in straight. You can even bake or cook with it. Our unflavored option is perfect for brownies or any recipe where you want control and precision. No more guessing how strong your edibles are. Available in 500 milligram and 1,000 milligram bottles, and flavors like strawberry, grape, blue ras, and our newest, mango guava 1,000 milligrams. Grab your toolkit at dispensaries across Massachusetts or at getgoodfeels.com. And as always, 21 plus only. Please consume responsibly. And that takes time to develop, right? Because you're building, as you're developing, you're also building a culture. Mm-hmm. Because culture isn't something you just say, hey, we're going to do this culture and that's it. In my experience anyways, running companies, it's always an organic thing. It just happens. You're like, you can shape it a little bit. Like a gardener, you can shape your plant, but you can't necessarily be like, it's going to be this genetic perfectly every time, right?
Yeah.
So when it comes to retention specifically, are you doing something extra special, I guess? Or is it really just, are you paying living wage, or like you have additional benefits like gym memberships? Like, what do you think about that stuff? Or is that part of the retention, or is it just people are just passionate and they like working there?
I think it's a mix of everything. I think, that's the beauty of this industry as a whole, is just the passion behind it and how much people love this plant and, what it's done for them. But, in terms of what we do, I mean, we're very competitive wage-wise. We have a really robust benefits program. We've offered different types of like therapy, particularly during like, obviously COVID and, the last 4 or 5 years have been like just wild, and then obviously, with the recent election, some folks are, kind of on edge a little bit, which I get. So we just try to do everything we can from a compensation standpoint, benefit standpoint, mental health standpoint, just to do whatever we can for our folks. They, without them, we're nothing, you gotta keep them happy and just listening, like our meetings, and host them appropriately, and really creating space for folks to come and be able to communicate maybe issues that are going on.
Now, was that it from day one? Did you have that space? Only because I can imagine a lot of people who are coming up right now maybe have one store and they're just like, okay, we're going to try to do things the right way, treat people fairly, whatever. Or is that something you just had to learn because it just got thrown in your face? You're like, oh, either like people are just like quitting all of a sudden, and what happened? And you have to like kind of reverse it a little bit, be like, what was the cause?
Yeah, I mean, like the running joke, right, is we're all in this industry. It's new. Is building the plane while you fly it.
Right.
So absolutely, I mean, like, and you've said it on here, like obstacles are opportunities, and every hurdle is something, you'll learn from it, so it's definitely been an evolution, and I say it all the time, like, our goal is to just always get better together, every day, want a little bit better every day. And so, it's a process, it's a journey. I mean, you can't, there's so many things, of course, I'd probably do differently. But I view those as learnings, not regrets. And, but yeah, it's
you take those learnings, you apply to the next situation because you can't go back in time.
Exactly.
You always look forward. But did you always have the plan in the back of your head, like, okay, because you guys started, obviously, one of the earlier companies here, especially obviously you have a presence in Maine as well, in New York coming up now, a lot of, or like 5 stores in New York now?
We have 2 open, 2 more about to open. And then, we've engaged, kind of like consulting, stuff like that, just to help, maybe mom and pops or minority owned businesses, gay owned business. I have family in Brooklyn. My brother owns wine shops and bars, and my cousin owns solar. And, just big, I've lived in Manhattan. I think you have as well.
Yeah, Brooklyn and Manhattan.
Yeah. And it's just such a special place down there. So, New York's a wonderful market. It's a really great market.
I would love to have products in New York at some point. It's maybe not in the cards in the short term, but because we're still obviously small, we're like 11 people basically full time.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
We're tiny.
What you guys do and the quality of product and just the traction you guys have, it's incredible. I mean, I truly can't think of a lot of other companies. I think, Coast is wonderful too. And Angela and Brian, they're just like the best. And there's very few local companies like you guys that have the traction you have, that have that market share.
Yeah, we don't like to speak it up too much because you don't want to. No, not because of our own boastfulness. It's because when you're doing things that are working, you don't talk because it's like it's working and we're just going to keep on going and don't want to attract too many competitors at this point.
Well,
everything's cracking off right now. So we're just like, let's just quiet and humble for a bit and just hold on tight.
Yeah, no, and you hit on something that I say to my team all the time. Obviously it's super saturated. You have competitors. Sometimes competitors do things that really, frankly, aren't right. And my thing is like always take the high road. And above all, don't pay attention to them. They're just noise. They'll fade out. Mm-hmm. When you have that when you're putting that kind of energy out, when you're, trying to sabotage or, whatever. It's just like, man, just keep your head down. Do your thing
on yourself.
Focus on what you can control.
Versus, and this is a recurring theme on this podcast. Actually, is every time I've talked to a dispensary owner, it's always been like, those lessons are, if you treat the customer right and give them the best experience, they're going to keep on coming back to you. It's not just because you get a lower price, because those people are the tech hunters. They're the ones who are like, what's the best price per mig I can get? And they're just going to go wherever. They're going to drive the extra 20 miles just to save like a $10 or something like that at an ounce. So let those people kind of go where they're going to go. But if you have that core audience that's going to be your people, then you can service those people really, really well. So
absolutely, yeah.
There's a lot of things. I mean, there's so many things you just touched upon, which are really interesting. But like getting back to the original question, did you always imagine you were going to go into New York and Maine and all of these stuff? Did you start in Maine or did you stay in Massachusetts?
We started in Mass. We were the 10th or 11th adult use to open. We would have been sooner, but I think they wanted. I think Caroline's Cannabis was like the first independent, non-medical, like pre-existing operator to get open, and then we were like pretty soon after that.
Like you always have that plan to like Maine, New York.
Yeah. Well, we opened in places where we have roots. Right. So I'm a Mass guy. I grew up in Hull. Hull Pirates go. I just, I
can't wait for ACS to go wreck.
Oh, yeah, totally. Yeah. I think that's been a struggle for,
I feel bad because I'm just like, man, our products already do well in their store. Yeah. Only I can't imagine what's going to happen with adult use.
It's such an underserved area. So like my family is from Hingham. We moved to Hull when I was really young. We had a moving and storage company there for years. So I grew up on trucks. And that area is just, for whatever reason, it's a lot of kind of older Irish Catholic curmudgeon-y people. They'd rather drink, 12 beers at night than smoke a joint. And so those communities in particular have been really challenging to work with. I think most of them just, whatever, Norwell, Hingham, Hanover, Duxbury, Kilhat. I mean, I don't think any of them play ball. It's really tough.
Hanover, I think Curaleaf's in Hanover.
Medical though.
Is it medical?
Yeah, I don't think they've been allowed to. Yeah, So yeah, but yeah, in terms of expanding, did I ever think we would be where we're at? Of course, I always had that vision of, you said it earlier, if we open in the right places and we provide a premier service, and provide the highest quality products we can, and leverage that. I mean, we were very fortunate as a young, or first mover, I should say, up in Williamstown. We didn't realize what we were getting into. Like we knew it would do well.
I don't think anybody did.
No. We were like, when you look at like what we were forecasting and then what ended up happening, it was a huge difference in a good way.
Yeah. Well, that's good, especially in the early movers.
So
I was going to say, if you open in 24, then you might have projected something way higher and been like, actually, it's not quite that.
You got to ramp it down. Yeah. So fortunately, given where Williamstown is, the proximity to, it's literally right next to Vermont and right next to New York.
Yep.
We were just seeing tremendous border traffic, and we had a tiny store. I mean, 700 square feet.
Yeah.
But you kind of miss those days. You know what I mean? Like we called it the submarine, but people loved it, because everyone there was local. I in the beginning, I was oftentimes in the vestibule checking IDs. Mm-hmm. And to this day, those are some of like my fondest memories of being in this industry, seeing people walk into your store and just be like, I never thought in my lifetime that this would happen. Yeah. And they're literally like getting teary. Yeah. And it's like, well, thank you. I'm so grateful that you're here, and the fact that an owner was, checking IDs and saying hello, I think was meaningful to folks. I remember one time I was doing everything, by the way. I was doing the emails, responding to Google review, just everything you can imagine digitally. Yeah. Shout out to Canna Planners. They built, we've been with them from the beginning, but like I was managing the website, managing our email segmentation, managing our social. So I remember I sent out an email about I think we took in some Acapulco Gold and sent the email out, and people literally drove from Ohio, because we were like the closest. Yeah. And there's just early on, you go through all these things. There was a million challenges too. I try to focus on the bright spots, but like hurdle after hurdle after hurdle.
Well, the investigators enforcement might have been really loose back then too, right?
Yeah.
I heard horror stories about like, I've got this really strong opinion about how things should be done, and so I'm going to say you have to have this sign on this door, and if it's not there, you have to close for 2 weeks until you get that sign up or something crazy.
Yeah, fortunately, I don't think our agents have always been pretty good, because I think they like us.
Very diplomatic of you.
Yeah, they do all the right. We do all the right things though. I think they respect us, and
we have good. And investigators are actually really great too.
Yeah,
we just got a new one, and he's been great so far.
I remember early on, I think we had something as simple as like one sign. I think it was like someone forgot to put up the sign on the paper towels that said, "Team members or employees must wash hands."
Yeah.
And they said, "We're going to go out to lunch, and we're going to come back, and assuming that changes, like you guys will be good to go." And we were like, "Thank you very much." You know what I mean? So, because they, they had to drive out from wherever. I think they were in Boston at the time. Yeah. So, like a 2.5 hour drive out. They were probably, got some lunch and came back, helped us out, and the rest is history. But it's a wild journey, and it every day is different, and I love it.
So, would you consider, if there was the opportunity to expand to 4, 5, or 6 in Massachusetts, would you take that opportunity?
Absolutely.
What would be the kind of deciding factor? Location? I think that's what a lot of people would say.
Yeah. I've opened close to a dozen now, and unequivocally, like you need a good location, right? Like the days are long gone of opening up, build it, they will come, and I feel really bad for. I don't feel really bad. I understand the challenges with operators that, they opened early and they had that advantage, and hopefully they saw a windfall and they were able to put some money in the bank. But if you were like one of those operators that had to go in like an industrial park and you're a retailer
into an industrial park with like tractor trailers everywhere, blown.
Yeah, exactly. And now you have to compete with, Main Street, with ample parking.
Yeah.
Like, how do you, and that's where customer loyalty experience, like, because people, you said earlier, people will drive, right? Whether it's the tack hunters or folks that are just incredibly loyal to your brand, to what you provide, with the experience you provide, they will come back. But you need to like double and triple down on those efforts if you're in industrial park and not on Main Street, because eyeballs matter. You know, you just need to be seen.
Yeah, and there's, you know, the location I think is one of the big things that I was taught a couple of years back as we saw all of this start to come about, because we're like, well, as more stores naturally come online and potentially get better locations, because maybe the municipality is just kind of like, they're a little bit more open to it, because the sky never fell. Because everybody's like, oh my God, let's put them in the farthest, deepest corners of our town, because nobody will ever see it, and all the kids will be protected from ever glancing at like something.
Yeah.
Then, but we saw that early on, and we never really had an inkling to own our own dispensary. Maybe as a showroom kind of thing, we might do it just for fun.
Yeah.
Because we have the cash flow account to like let it run and stuff like that, and have a little margin extra left over. But it was always about location from us, because it's just like, at the end of the day, you know, and I don't want to dilute it too much, but it's a package store you know what I mean? It's just,
absolutely.
it's retail.
Yeah.
You know what I
We're
mean?
retailers.
It's been done before.
Yeah.
And if you're trying to buy, you know, yeah, sure. But the thing is, for brand, again, if there's a Louis Vuitton store in an industrial park, people are still going to go to it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's not, but if you're just like some knockoff brand that nobody's ever heard of, then they're not going to go there, right? So there is obviously a draw in the brand itself. But you have different brands for your stores too, right? So like,
Yeah.
was that part of like a conscious decision because the demographic was going to be different? I know City Farm obviously had the roots in Rosendale for that perspective for selling flowers as like a nursery.
Yeah.
But what I think about when I think about brand is, did you make a conscious effort to say, okay, City Farm Brooklyn would be City Farm because it's a city, or is it because like you, that demographic specifically, and you shape the store around that demographic? Like, what's the decision-making process when it goes into like opening a new store?
Yeah. So Silver Therapeutics is, you know, our retails in Maine and Mass. And that was pretty straightforward. In New York, for one reason or another, you're not allowed to use the word therapeutics. And so we said, okay, people are familiar with Silver. A lot of people call us Silver, like, hey, heading to Silver, you know? So we got to keep that. So we went Silver Cannabis Company. And then, yeah, the brand City Farm was born in Rosendale, as you mentioned, and was the nursery. And I just fell in love with the name. And funny enough, I found the property. Gosh, I was in line on 420 in, I think it was 2018. And I met a woman in front of me, and we were just chatting. And I was at, you know, what do you usually buy? And she's like, working with me on it. And she's like, finally, like, are you in the industry? Like, right. Who are you? I said, well, actually, I'm opening a store in the Berkshires in, you know, hopefully pretty soon. And if actually fast forward a year later, we were open. But she goes, oh, really? I said, yeah. She said, well, my family owns a property in Rosendale, and it's a great location. It's on American Legion Highway. It's across from McDonald's and a shopping plaza. And I think we were told that it's compliant. Would you be interested?
Nice.
I said, absolutely. So that was like
a conversation in line on 420.
Yep. No realtors, no, like literally wonderful woman. Like, it's just unbelievable. And the family's great. And so we figured that out, and, you know, we got it open. But yeah, City Farm was the name of the nursery. We kept it. And now we're about to open in Brooklyn in the neighborhood of Greenpoint. And it's just, again, it's in a city, right? So it lends itself that way. And then obviously there's certain social equity activities happening at City Farm. You know, we work with, obviously,
partner with somebody.
Yeah. So we've
social equity.
Yeah. So we've been, you know, for example, like I work with Rolling Relief, Devon. So I've been consulting there for a couple of years and just like helping them with whatever. Operationally, financially, but the goal with City Farm was always to, like, you know, cultivate there in a craft way, product manufacture there in a craft way, and we're like very close to finally like seeing that through. But we've been open as retailers there, I think, since July.
Has it treated you nicely in New York?
New York has been awesome. Yeah. We got open in Saratoga Springs. My partner Josh Silver is from there. Or lives there.
There's roots, right?
Yeah, there's roots.
There.
Exactly. And I mean, we've been sitting on this. We've been paying for this property for like 2+ years. You know,
fortunately, OCM has been.
Yeah. Fortunately, it's you know, reasonable rent. You know, like, and that's one of our rules. Like, we don't.
You don't pay the cannabis tax.
No. It's just not, in the long term, doesn't work.
Yeah.
You know,
we've gotten so many properties thrown at us. Where, like, I remember one property I walked into. It's a side story. I think it was like $8 a square foot. And then they're like, what do you guys do? Cannabis. And it was like, oh, that's actually, it's $15 a square foot. Sorry.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what is this? This extra premium on anything?
Extortion.
Cannabis.
Yeah. I mean, we've just been extorted left and right. I mean, you know, whether it's impact fees or, you know, but yeah, it's just a rule we have, you know, when we're identifying sites and working with landlords. Ideally, I mean, we're in a position where we'd like to purchase our properties when we can. But, you know, when landlords see, like, you know, for example, we're negotiating on 5 or 6 LOIs in Minnesota right now.
Oh, Minnesota.
And
so that'll be your next state?
Yeah. Minnesota will be next. And we're working on some things in New Jersey.
Nice.
But, yeah, it's like, oh, who are you? Okay, send us a deck. So we have all these materials. We knew, like, landlords are, okay, you're a legitimate company. And we've already had to sweeten the pot like 3 or 4 times. You know, but like it's been incremental. It's not been, it hasn't been doubled. Yeah, it's kind of 10-15%, which is like, okay.
That's reasonable.
That's reasonable.
Because, you know, people, you know, they hear cannabis, everybody gets greedy.
Yeah.
Even though it hasn't really been that way since, like, as an operator, since 22, maybe, end of, you know, early 23, everybody's cranking still.
Cranking.
And then ever since, like, you know, mid to end of 2023 into 2024, actually, which brings up my next question.
Yeah.
Which is, you're expanding.
Yeah.
How are you so different, or how are you able to expand? Because everybody says Massachusetts cannabis, it's over. Nobody's looking at Massachusetts anymore. Like, and obviously you're moving into other states, of course.
Yeah.
But it's more about the fact that, like, how are you able to do it versus, you know, some of your competitors at the time?
We're still like very lean and mean.
Lean.
Yeah.
Expenses keeping it under control.
Yeah. And I know everyone says this about the organization, and they should, but we just have the best team. Like, we really do. And we've brought on really talented people over the last year to really step into my role, like, so that I can really facilitate expansion and partnerships. It was, I was just in too much every day.
I feel like,
yeah, you know, I'm preaching to the choir.
Everything.
Yeah. You every day you are in everything, and you're killing it, you know. But our goal is to constantly grow, right? And everyone in Mass has felt the price compression, has felt like dip in transactions, and fortunately, we've been able to. I think our average growth year over year, revenue wise, is like 30+%. And it's because we're going into new markets.
Are there some soft spots, or like Massachusetts, obviously, because you said lower transactions, lower baskets. What I was actually seeing before, I've talked to a bunch of other dispensary owners, and they were kind of saying, we're seeing the same amount of transactions or more transactions, but the basket sizes are lower because of the price compression.
So in 2 of our 3 Massachusetts stores, we're seeing growth.
Oh, that's awesome.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
One of them, it's a situation where like 2 other groups moved in a matter of like 6 months. And so we're seeing like a little dip transactionally, but not nearly what I think we expected, because we have such a robust loyalty program and we treat our customers really well. So, and we're in a great location. So it like, we, if it wasn't for, you know, saturation, you know, 2 other operators coming in, like, honestly, I think that one would probably continue to grow as well. So, but, you know, Williamstown as an example, definitely saw a dip, right? More people came in, Vermont legalized, New York legalized. Yeah. But Massachusetts still has incredible products at great prices. And we got more aggressive with our pricing, as aggressive as we could, really. And in the last year, I think we've seen like 20+% growth in Williamstown.
That's fantastic.
Transactionally.
So do you guys stick to Keystone? Is that kind of your thing? Or do
we try.
Take a hit of margin sometimes just to make sure the product's moving?
Exactly. Yeah. Product traction is critical. You know, you need door swingers. You need to have the products that people want. And, you know, I think we continue to, you know, we use like Hoodie Analytics now, which has been great. I've always lived in headset. But again, our team is just, we keep getting better. We keep optimizing. So
you have a store in Vermont too.
Yes. Yeah.
You didn't even bring up Vermont.
Oh, Vermont. Yeah. I'm a Vermont resident, you know.
I was just thinking, I was like, I'm pretty sure you have a store in Vermont too.
So yeah, so I should have started with, we have operations in Maine, Massachusetts, New York, and Vermont.
So Vermont is one of those interesting states where home grow had been legal forever at that point, but recreational.
Even if it wasn't, it was.
Exactly.
My uncle is a legacy grower. He was he was growing his property back in the 70s, 80s. It was. Everyone up there grows. Yeah, it's pretty.
So
cool.
if you were to rank the current stores that are open right now, it would be probably New York stores, Massachusetts stores, Maine, then Vermont. I'm assuming.
Rank in terms of what, revenue?
Revenue, yeah.
Our Maine store crushes.
Really?
Yeah, we're a New Hampshire border play.
Oh, God.
And it just crushes.
New Hampshire can't get their act together. Let them keep on fumbling it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No. Listen, I want weed for all. But I'd be lying if I said it's not helping us.
Yeah, exactly. Well, especially even the Massachusetts border, like Haverhill and that area in Massachusetts, they're still crushing it over there because New Hampshire can't get their act together.
Yeah. So we're paying attention to New Hampshire. We want to be in that market.
It's like how many there's medical, but it's like
there's only
medical stores.
Yeah, 3 or 4.
You have to drive 4 hours to get to a medical store.
It's wild. Yeah, I've actually visited a couple of facilities there a long time ago because I had connections to them, but it's a wild marketplace. But yeah, so those are our 4 states that we currently operate in, and like I said, Minnesota hopefully is next, and New Jersey, and we'll just kind of see where it goes.
But how do you guys? So the frugalness, obviously, or not frugality, but more of just staying lean. I guess is the more business friendly way of saying it.
Yeah,
you're staying lean. Is there some advantage? Obviously, you've also somewhat built a brand, Silver. Right, because now people know you guys. Even though you went to New York and you couldn't use therapeutics, you still ended up using the word Silver because I even call you guys Silver.
Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by Good Feels, makers of Good Vibes, the fast-acting tincture that actually delivers. Whether you're into classic flavors like grape, blue raz, or strawberry, or want to try our brand new 1,000 milligram mango guava, we've got a vibe for every taste. Just pop it into your drink and feel it kick in fast. None of the wait, all the feels. Available now in 500 milligrams or 1,000 milligrams bottles across Massachusetts dispensaries or at getgoodfeels.com. As always, 21 plus only, and please consume responsibly. How about your marketing and stuff like that? Are you guys, so you mentioned loyalty program.
Yeah.
Is that part of kind of the strategy of keeping people in stores?
Oh yeah. Every month we're looking at retention rates by store, and in terms of the tech stack, we use Alpine IQ, which has been great. For email and SMS. Canna Planners manages it for us. They work directly with our marketing department. Shout out to Rain. She's been incredible.
Canna Planners?
Rain is a Silver employee, a team member, and she was a teacher. Her, at the local school where we live in Harvard, Mass, and at the Bromfield School, and she's incredible. She had some marketing experience. I just knew her whole demeanor, her approach to cannabis would be a great fit for marketing. She came in, she learned a ton. She's continuing to learn, and she's just crushing it for us. And then we've gone in the direction of having 2 field marketing folks too, which have been amazing. And
they covering Massachusetts.
So one, Chris, who's incredible. He's been covering Mass and Maine. Okay. And then Kelly Clack has been with us from the beginning.
I know that name.
Yeah, she's incredible. She's, literally one of the first team members in Williamstown. She's now the field marketing person for, Berkshire's, Bennington area and into New York. So So, there might be a scenario where we might need another person, just kind of given the expansion. But that setup has been awesome. Having those individuals, particularly Kelly and Chris, dedicated to grassroots, forming local partnerships, going to events that aren't just cannabis events.
I know. I think that's what a lot of people are missing is that, there's more than just cannabis events to go to.
Totally.
And to engage with brands. And of course, you have to be careful because I think there's a Juneteenth celebration coming up in my town. And somebody had asked me for, I'm going to butcher this, Omari's company, Bester Limited. So Omari, who I think he was co-packing at Netta, and Netta just actually had a huge rental layoff, so I hope he kind of survived that a little bit.
Wow.
But we're interviewing, we're recruiting actually right now, but for a couple positions, and we have a couple of Netta people that have reached out looking to come on. But but Omari, I guess one of his co-founders or somebody who's kind of higher up was going and saying hey, can we be part of the Juneteenth thing? And I'm like, that's a great idea. You don't have to be oh, is it cannabis this and cannabis that? No. go to the Juneteenth event and show up and put up a table. Like, talk to people about your products. You know what I mean? It's not like you're going to be serving it, but whatever. Getting back to the people side, because you said best team, one of the best teams in cannabis.
Yeah.
I say the same thing about my team, obviously.
You should.
Yeah, we're pretty stacked here. But I will say recruiting is a superpower, is what a lot of people say, right? So it's like, is there something that you guys look for in people when you're trying to, you know, hire that next person? Like, are there like one or two attributes that immediately come to mind?
You know, for me, I don't do a lot of interviewing anymore unless it's like very corporate, you know, like a CFO or, but when I was interviewing, smiling, you know, is the person smiling at all, you know, during this 30 to 60 minute conversation? If not, it's like kind of a red flag. We're hospitality,
right?
You know, particularly, especially if it's like a Budtender role, you know, it's like, man, this person didn't like smile once. Like, that's kind of weird. And then, you know, obviously you don't want to see someone bouncing around. You know, if you see their resume and there's like, they've had 6 jobs in the last 2 years, it's like, that's kind of tough. But I think we constantly elevate from within. So if there's a new opportunity, the first thing we do is we post it internally. Typically get a lot of bites, which is great. We've, like, for example, we're about to open in Lake George, New York, which we're
Lake George,
super stoked about. It's so gorgeous. We'll be the first one. We're really excited. We'll open this month. Yeah, we're pretty psyched. But I think we had 3 people. One from Albany. We opened in Albany recently. I think someone from Albany already they're closer. They want to move over. Somebody from Bennington has moved over. They're like the assistant manager there. And I think maybe even someone from Bennington. So like, it's just gotten to the point where like everyone loves what they do. They love working with us. And they're willing to even shift. I mean, Ellie is a perfect example. She started in Williamstown. She got Orange open, which we eventually sold. And then she moved up to Maine and she got 3 of our Maine retails open.
Nice.
It's like, she's unbelievable. You know, it's like just having that loyalty, having that dependability, you know, it's just been, I think it's because we treat our people right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a little bit further on the people side of things, are you guys adopting to any AI right now? You guys looking at that stuff?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Very, you know, base level, I would say. I mean, I would say, you know, meetings being recorded and providing
the basics, like making sure the summary, right? The hit points and actions you take.
You know, we're starting there, but I've looked at and we're considering, you know, some of the like menu AI companies,
like the little bots that and just kind of guide you to the right product.
Exactly. But you know, nothing in a meaningful way, I would say at this point. But obviously, it's there. It's available. It's very real. You know, probably from more of a data and analytics standpoint, it's being utilized. But you know, it's happening. It's here. It's going to continue to evolve and develop, and you know, kind of take more market share, so to speak. But yeah, nothing currently that I think is like all that noteworthy.
Yeah, and so when with your team, because you said you're about 100-ish or over 100 now?
Gosh, you know, probably 110-ish.
110. So
I think.
Out of about 110, do you have software people? Like, is there any? I mean, you have IT probably at this point, but maybe not software.
You're gonna laugh. So
are you the IT guys?
So me, David Buckler, Zach Wilson, we're probably the IT guys in a way. What happens is we open a store. We typically try to work with local folks, right? So, okay, who's the local IT firm that can come in and help facilitate with the POS stations?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's helpful, man. Like there's buy-in. You know, you're working with other local businesses.
The town must love that.
Oh, they love it. Yeah, like as someone might argue, like, well, hey, you really
efficient.
Yeah, you should really centralize this. It's like, so wait, so you want me to like have a person or persons that maybe like live in Massachusetts and then they have to drive out to all these places? Right. You know what I mean? Like that doesn't seem all that efficient.
Especially for a point of sale, it's like sometimes you have to be on site. You can't troubleshoot it from another state.
Exactly. Like if something goes down and a manager or assistant manager, whomever, like can't fix it, like we need someone that's local to come by. You know, and so building those relationships, like we have every location has like a vendor sheet, you know, from
smart
asphalt to IT to whatever, you know, so that if something happens, which shit happens
all the time,
there's a direct line to an individual or company that can assist. So
Smart.
yeah, the plumbing, HVAC. I mean, like
That's so smart.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people don't think about this, especially, but that's something you probably evolved over the second, third
Totally.
store. You were like,
Yep.
all right, we got to have some kind of printed out sheet that says, if this happens, call this person, right?
yeah,
So like the IT side, AI side, obviously it's an evolving thing, AI specifically. IT is one of those things that working with local operators, I think is really smart actually. But when it comes to, I guess, the dispensary side, are you straight dispensaries? I mean, you said City Farm also is going to have cultivation inside of it. You were implying like cultivation, product manufacturing. If you think about the three systems or operation license, are you just want dispensaries at this point?
Yeah, we've always been retailers first. So we have a cultivation in Brunswick, Maine, which is wonderful. I was just there on Monday, but it's the license holder is actually my sister. So it's woman owned, and we're just like a consulting or management company at this point, helping to operate the entity. So we're as a brand, we're no longer going to hold and don't hold any sort of like vertical licenses because we participate in the New York retail market. So
It has to be deverticalized. I remember that
Yes.
in New York.
Yep.
So that applies to all of your other business, all the other states as well.
Yeah.
It kind of affects New York.
Exactly.
Kind of decides that, and then you have to play ball everywhere.
Yes. So if you are vertical anywhere, and again, unless I think they're called ROs in New York. I think there's maybe 12 or 13 kind of bigger groups that got grandfathered in. You know, like
Well, maybe they had medical already.
exactly. That's in there. Those are the medical operators, and that's capped. Like that is done. There's no more medical there. You cannot be vertical anywhere on Earth. So
New York enforces that on everybody.
yeah. So we're like, okay, so yeah, we just divested of the cultivation in Maine, and again, we've always been retailers first, so that is our core focus, and will continue to be.
Was that smart over the long term? Has it been?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because wholesale prices are going to be wholesale prices.
Yeah.
But for you, now you're curating a selection of products you want in your stores versus worrying about the cultivation side of it and all the manufacturing side.
yeah. Having been vertical, you know, and it's hard, you know, especially cultivation, especially in New England, right? Like the change in seasons, the humidity, the cold, the heat. It's expensive.
Very expensive.
In Maine in particular, and I'm on a trade group there where our trade group probably represents close to 30 to 40% of the market. There's an excise tax, like something like $360 per pound.
I've been hearing more about these taxes that are getting, shifted around. I just heard about in Pennsylvania, they have a 5% transfer tax.
Wow.
So every time you do a transfer between licenses, it's 5%.
Where does that go?
I don't know.
Like
Who gets that?
Yeah, is it the state? Is it the
And that's a
local
medical
municipality?
state. I know there's adult use being discussed.
Yeah, that is so wild. Yeah, it's just
These little fees
extortion.
kind of get you.
There's absolutely no reason for that fee.
Yeah.
There's no reason for that fee.
It's a vice tax. It's
Yeah.
like, hey, this was illegal and now it's legal, so now we want to collect every little penny from this
That's
situation.
wild.
But so New York imposing that across basically all of your things. So it sounds like there's a bunch of different entities out there, and you said your sister runs the cultivation side in Maine. Is that still Silver, or does she have an ownership in Silver, or?
So she's the license holder, and she's and owns 100% of the license, and we're allowing her to use our brand.
Got you. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And so, have you looked into things like ESOPs or anything like that?
Yeah. No, we're very interested in ESOPs. For anyone that may not know, it's a employee stock ownership plan.
Okay. I don't even know what that.
Yeah.
What the acronym was.
and essentially, you sell your company to your employees.
Okay.
And people do it for a number of reasons. One of the most noteworthy is just the fact that once you become an ESOP entity, you no longer are subject to federal or state taxes. So you're adding a considerable amount of money, back to the bottom line. And as we all know, cannabis is, disproportionately taxed for in a number of ways.
Does
So
the tax flow to the individual at that point? Is that why?
So as an example, if you're a W-2 employee working for an ESOP, of course your wages still get taxed the way they normally would.
But there's like a line item that says
I'm not sure about
sharing or something.
Oh, so you'll, like anything, you'll have to vest, right? So vesting periods can be as little as 3 or 4 years, and then it accumulates. But a lot of people look at ESOPs like retirement plans. The longer you're there, the more it's building up, and my understanding is that your shares are relative to your comp, right? So if the higher you're paid, theoretically, the higher position you have, the more stock you're going to accumulate over time. So it's a really wonderful setup, and something we're definitely considering, to close on this year. A lot of different things have to happen. We looked at it last year, but we had several of our retails weren't open yet. And so when you do an ESOP, you have to go through a valuation process. They were heavily discounting the non-operational assets to the point where it didn't make sense for us to move forward.
Non-operational assets.
So like stores that aren't open yet. And so all they can see,
they haven't opened.
Yeah. So all they can see is speculative, revenues for those stores. And they say, okay, you think you're going to do that? Well, you're not open yet. So you're only going to, we're only going to value this at X.
Yeah. Like 30% of the value.
Yeah. And it's like, for us, there's obviously a certainty of execution, right? Like we've done this, to suggest that there's a lot of risk associated with that store getting open is kind of crazy. I do understand though, we've been wrong about forecasts before. Yeah, we've been wrong in good ways and wrong in bad ways. So, and a lot of times, it's outside of our control, right? Maine is an example, Portland in particular. We thought, we met residency requirements back when those were in existence for cannabis. At the time, I think we thought maybe there'd be 10 to 15 stores in Portland, kind of based on the criteria to get a license. And I think it was acreage. They kind of threatened litigation or whatever. That's okay. I'm not that. I'm naming them, but I'm not calling them out. And Maine, I love Maine, but they did a very Maine thing and just kind of threw their hands up and said, okay, we don't want to litigate. And so because that residency criteria just went away overnight, our license there probably got devalued by, half or more. Right. So now there's I don't even want to count, but there's probably 40 dispensaries in and around Portland.
In and around Portland.
Yeah. 30 to 40, I would say.
Wow.
I mean, no lie, I can step out of mine on 374 Street, Silver Therapeutics, and I can literally throw a baseball to, I would say 1, 2, 3, 4. And it's not, I'm not lob tossing. It's I can probably do it standing, right? Not moving my legs. I mean, it's pretty crazy up there. Yeah. Yeah.
40 in and around Portland.
Yeah.
So, but when it comes to the ESOP, is it do the employees have voting rights? How does your share even change? Because you co-founded it, right? So does your percentage basically is the same percentage as you had before, and then you retain voting rights? Do the employees have voting rights? So if somebody says, we have to give everybody a raise, everybody gets a raise. How does that work?
Well, we give raises every year, right? So we go through an annual review process, and so fortunately we do that every year. But just from a mechanic standpoint, we are selling the company to our employees, so and a majority stake in it, and then there's a little left over by way of warrant coverage in the future. So we're effectively, because we're cannabis, no bank will come in and back it.
No,
Yeah. So we're going to hold paper. Right. So theoretically, we sell the company to our employees. There's a note owed to me and my partners and investors. And it's essentially paid out over time with a little bit of interest, because nothing's for free.
It's a note. Yeah.
Yeah. And, typically in a scenario like that, you're probably paid out over 3 to 5 years.
Okay.
And then the warrant coverage kicks in, and that can start. But you're essentially you're being paid out of profits. Mm-hmm. And obviously now that you're no longer paying federal or state taxes, that number's gone way up.
Right.
So the company can afford to pay you off over time.
Yeah, because I've been hearing a lot more about this, and I think Theory was one of the first companies in Massachusetts to do it.
Yeah.
And another company around the same time, I can't remember. And then at the testimony at the Massachusetts State House, like a month ago at this point, back in April, Meg Sanders, Cannabis, stood up and said something about how the CCC doesn't really quite understand ESOPs and they're categorizing it in a weird way or something like that. So there's still obviously battles. There's still like just understanding and this communication of like, this is a good thing, you know?
Yeah.
But why would somebody want to do this? Why would they want to sell to their employee? Like, I don't get, like, you're the owner, you're the boss, and I get to make all the decisions. But why would you sell it to your employees?
They deserve it.
Okay.
You know, we wouldn't be where we are without them, you know, and I've worked my ass off for my life, right? Like I grew up in a moving and storage family, you know, it's like, I was a pretty rambunctious kid. So
get the energy out here. Put it in the truck.
So I wouldn't get in trouble. My dad would drag me to the warehouse, and I would, you know, load trucks and load pallets, and I'm so grateful I went through that because this is such a privilege, man. I mean, I get to sell weed and make people happy, and it was, you know, I have vivid memories of, you know, hot summer days moving furniture up, you know, 3 flights to the north end, and the truck driver just being like, stay in school. I've been there. I was a mover. Yeah.
When the dot-com bubble burst back in 2001, I was a pretty well-paid consultant, you know, doing, you know, software for very large companies. And, you know, the type of company, the kind of company I worked with was the people who made the first Best Buy e-commerce store, for instance.
Oh, cool.
They're to London, Glastonbury, Connecticut. Huge, awesome company, the most talented group of like engineers I've really worked with. And dot-com bubble burst, and I was like, everything will be fine. I was like 20 something, so I'm like, no worries. And then after the summer, and I spent all my, you know, they gave me a nice severance. I spent all my severance partying all summer. I was like, okay, time to find a job, and there were no jobs for me. And I'm like, So I ended up moving furniture in like the North End and stuff like that. And
what company? Do you remember?
Oh, it was some Craigslist.
Was like, okay, very cool.
Like, there's no insurance. There's no liability insurance.
2 guys in a truck.
Yeah,
LLC.
Exactly. So this guy would hire us, and he had a couple guys that worked for him, and it was just cash, and I was like, just happy to have cash.
Yeah, of course.
So we were busting our butt, but I remember vividly a few times being like, I don't think I can do this much longer. It's hard. Yeah. Your back starts to ache every night, and you're just like, what am I doing? Like, am I lifting wrong? Like, it's just the wear and tear of the day. And you'd be sweating up and down those stairs, and a walk up. It was brutal. Do not miss those days. That's why it's so privileged to be in this industry, especially for companies who are fiscally responsible and are actually, you know, growing. Mm-hmm. It's great to be in this position because you see the people who maybe are looking at their competitors' menus and, you know, dropping their prices lower just to get ahead and stuff like that. And they don't think, you know, they think, oh, we're going to win. And it's so short-term thinking. Totally. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, so it's good. It's a breath of fresh air to see you succeeding and growing and actually winning in this side. And I do feel, you know, sometimes just, I feel hopeful, but I also feel a little bit of anxiety when I hear about these new stores that are opening. And I'm like, do you guys understand what you're getting into? No. You have your friends and family money. You pull together your life savings, and you're about to open an industrial park and like, or whatever. Yeah. I think most of those lessons have been learned at this point. But the shock that came yesterday was super interesting, which was Mint Cannabis not opening. So in Belmont, they literally, because we were going to be in the store. Yeah. So, you know, so we had an inside kind of conversation about it. But basically, they showed up yesterday, and it was padlocked doors. And they had commenced for a year almost or something. They've had it commence for months at least.
That's a shame.
And they were just waiting for the Mint, basically the parent company, just to say, all right, time to go, time to open the doors and go. And so apparently the retail staff got there, totally locked up. Wasn't out even told. That's how they found out.
That's so wild.
And then they all went to her friend's house and just started smoking. Yeah. They were like,
I would do the same thing.
What else am I doing today? Yeah. I was planning on working, you know?
It's well, I mean, this does involve the ESOP, right? I mean, like, we're so fortunate to have the loyalty we have, and I've already mentioned, like, I think some of the reasons why. But when all of a sudden you, as a young person, you know, I'm guessing, but I would say the average age of our employees is probably high 20s, you know, 28 to 32, and you can actually see a path to wealth, you know, to like pretty substantial, you know, in this case, like a retirement account. And you get to sell weed and you get to work with cool people. Like, it's a win-win. And, you know, it's, like the why behind it's, excuse me, sorry, I'm not getting teary. I'm just, I just have a cough.
Your employees, you got super teary. But I do see where you're going with that, because I do, like, you just hit a trifecta. You're saving for retirement. You've got this kind of like, you know, potentially substantial wealth behind it over years, obviously. Yep. You like the people you're working with, and you get to sell weed. It's like, that's all you need sometimes in life. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to be like, God, chasing for millions and multi-millions of dollars all the time and, you know, wake up every day and do your cold plunge. And, you know, it's just like, hey, I sell weed. Yeah. I'm making an okay living, and I'll have a good retirement chunk at the end. And I work with cool people. Like, what else do you need?
Yeah, no. And it's, you know, at times we probably should adjust our hours to be open longer, but, we haven't for one reason or another. It's mostly because, like, we don't want to be too disruptive too. Like, you know, again, if you provide a really great service and really great products, like, your customer base will come. They'll make the time, you know, like, they're not gonna go somewhere else. Maybe they, you know, if you close at 8 and they really need something and there's some place open till 9, yeah, I get it, but like, they'll come back, you know what I mean? Like, they're going there for that in that particular situation. So, but yeah, no, the ESOP that we're considering is looking really good, and it's everyone has skin in the game. Everyone is an owner, right? And that just kind of flips a switch. It just kind of changes the mentality of the. But the beauty is we tell our managers, our assistant managers and Budtenders, like, you guys own this place. Yeah, you are this place, right? So if you see something, say something, right? Like, it's you gotta make them feel like owners, and this going through this pathway, like, they actually are, you know. So that actually puts it in writing that you are. Exactly.
We have a very similar philosophy here, because we have the same line. If you see something, say something. Obviously, that's MTA, New York City MTA. Good marketing, but it's stuck with us as well. Where, you know, I mentioned this to the team a year ago when we were kind of just up on the upswing, and I was just like, hey, if you see something, so we always say, if it's going to make the next person's job easier, just do it now.
Totally.
Like, clean up your station, make it perfect, clean everything. Like, if you see something in the ground and it's like a little, you know, piece of paper or whatever, just pick it up. Like, pick it up and throw it out. Like, just take care of your space and feel ownership and pride in your space. Because the next person who's coming in that shift or whatever, they're going to have a way easier time, and they're going to be so thankful that you have it perfectly lined up for them. But you guys don't do production or cultivation at all anymore? Just clarifying.
We do some repackaging. Which honestly we're looking at now, and we're evaluating it. It's just we don't know if it's actually we love the brand recognition. You know, we love, like, in mass, we are the #1 selling product at our stores, and we do. When I say that, I mean, you know, our pre-rolls, flower units, and vapes that are packaged under Silver Therapeutics.
Is that all by hand, or you have some?
Oh yeah. So we have partnerships with you know, with for vapes.
Yeah.
But for the flower side of things,
you get the bulk flower.
Yeah, we get the bulk, and our team rolls it. You know, and it's amazing. You know, it's really cool to have, like, a little production area, but you know, we're realizing that it might be more effective, more cost effective, and make more sense to kind of co-pack with someone or multiple groups. So we're looking at that now, but for the last couple of years, we've been repackaging out of Williamstown.
Okay. Yeah. The only thing I would say that you might want to think deeper about, which you probably already have, which is the quality control.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be like, if you're just setting else co-pack it, you kind of just have to trust that they're going to do it the way you do it.
Exactly.
And they would reject something, you know what I mean? The way you'd reject something. So there is a quality aspect to it, because I think every store should have their own brand.
Yeah.
I mean, Walmart has their brands. Costco has Kirkland. Like this is just a great way. And I think the person who actually introduced this to me was Mike Honeywell at Escar.
Yes.
So he was the one who's big on map pricing.
Yep.
It's just like he's big. And again, I don't fully understand map pricing. I look at it as a kind of a range, like, hey, sell our product within this range. If you're out of this range, you're out of contract, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So somebody can't take, we're like, hey, $20, Keystone's 40, sell it on the shelf for 40, and they sell for like 60. It just happened to us many times.
Oh yeah.
And we're just like, well, we don't see that margin. And the customer's like, wait a second, why is this so expensive? So it looks bad to us.
Yeah.
Almost, you know what I mean? Anyways, but when it comes to like having a product that is good quality, that doesn't break the bank for customers, and of course you could still sell the premium stuff or craft stuff on top of it that are from other brands, but having that floor of income and stream of just like consistently good product, I think most dispensaries should be packaging their flower.
You hit on this earlier when you said package stores.
Yeah.
Like, of course, I look at cannabis much differently than I look at alcohol.
Right.
That's obvious. But from like a consumer behavior standpoint and the way in which a liquor store carries their inventory, like, of course, if you're a high volume liquor store, you're probably gonna have a lot of Bud Light, a lot of Coors Light, the cupcake wine, and yeah, you'll have the Dom Perignon and the Weller bourbon, but far less units because far less of those are sold.
Yeah.
And from like a dispensary standpoint, we want to have everything that everybody wants in proportion to the demand. It's like really no different. So and as we all know in Massachusetts, like the demand for cheap weed that's still okay is huge.
There are some really large, and whether they're MSOs or not, of course, some of those brands that are coming up right now, or some of those well-established brands, and I'm not going to name any names. I try not to name names on the pod because I don't want anybody to be mad at me that I didn't name them. But basically, there are some people who do more premium value where it's just like it's good, solid quality flower and it's not super expensive. And then, but I think every dispenser should also just carry premium stuff because like you were saying, high quality bourbons and stuff like that. It just shows that the dispensary has they have the premium stuff. So if you're ever in that mood to like grab that fancy thing, you're going to a party, you want to grab a really great pre-roll. Maybe the pre-roll is $15. Oh my God.
Yeah.
But like you want to get it because it's Acapulco Gold or something like that, and you're going to travel for it.
Yeah.
I think all of those dispensaries out there, they have to think about having that baseline product that just services everybody, but also have those little peaks of premium in there that makes your customers feel like, oh, this isn't just like a cheap, drive-through here. This is actually like a store that has more than just, the prepackaged kind of like pre-ground stuff.
Yeah, and that's also, how your budtenders, how your team members sell products. You know what I mean? We have a whole dialogue. I was
going to say, you must have a serious training.
Yeah. Oh, so our training has improved so much over the last few years, just in terms of like the actual materials we have and how it's set up. It's Google Classroom, really straightforward. But it's, welcome to Silver Therapeutics or City Farm or Silver Cannabis Company. Thank you for choosing us. We know there's other options out there, so we're grateful to have you. What are you looking to achieve through cannabis, right? And I'm having trouble sleeping, which is a huge, I would say that's probably the number one.
And lost our sleep product.
Yeah. And having trouble sleeping. Okay, great. What's your preferred consumption method?
Right.
What do you enjoy? Gummies or beverages.
Right.
Like that. What was that? 10 seconds.
Yeah.
It was nice. It was cordial. It was meaningful. You're not being rushed, and you pretty much just identified like let's say you have 5 SKUs or 10 SKUs, like you know what you're going to sell them now, right? And it's not pushing, it's not upselling. It's like, hey, this is what you told me. This is what we think you need. This is what we have.
Right.
And it's really nice, like that's the way it should be. It's like you go in a booze store, everyone knows what they already want, and they
come in for my rack of a Bud Light. Right.
Exactly. Or you might, if you're looking for a new wine, you want to try a nice Pinot Noir, you get some flowers or something. But, it's a process. We thrive on systems, we thrive on training, and consistency. Like I want someone, whether they go to our Berwick store in Maine or our Rosendale store in Massachusetts or Bennington, Vermont or Saratoga, like the feel, the dialogue, like it has to be consistent. Yeah.
That's where the consistency comes in.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the smaller operators, maybe single stores, or maybe you got into your second store, I think people should be listening to this. The training is super important because it still pains me when I go into a store and it's retail and the budtender is just like, it's like you're not quite a great budtender.
Yeah.
No fault of your own potentially, because it could have been just you never were trained. You were like thrown into a register and said, hey, here's a point of sale, click on these 3 buttons and go.
Yeah.
Learn how to check an ID kind of thing, and you're good to go. Whereas if you have a solid, robust training program and you have these systems in place, you're going to get so much more value because those bud tenders will be able to cross-sell, upsell, and also beyond that, just service your customers better, and their customers are going to want to come back because they're going to feel like they belong there.
We have customers, and it probably sounds like they bring cookies to us. You know what I mean? Like literally, and
yeah, you give them weed.
Yeah, like and anytime we have a clothing drive or a food drive, which is constantly like, I can't. It's like overwhelming how wonderful and beautiful these communities are. Like they respond so quickly. I mean, this is like I've had youth sports organizations approach us and say, we want you to sponsor a Little League team, or we want you to sponsor a Pop Warner team. Right. And I'm like, I'm blown away. Yeah. It's like, it's such a reflection of, I think, who we are. And when I say who, I mean like the people at the retail.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
like the comfort and the joy that they bring and the professionalism too, And unfortunately, I have to say, I'm so sorry we're not allowed to do this.
Yeah.
But I am so honored as someone
I was going to bring that up. I was like, I can't really do that.
Yeah. So I donate, on a personal level, and I make sure that my co-founder, we kind of participate in that as people, because we can't participate in that as a business. And I'm constantly donating. It's a good thing. It's, it's sometimes a little overwhelming when, it's a lot happening at once. But yeah, it's I'm just so proud of our people and the fact that we've built a culture and an experience where like that happens to us. That's a result.
Yeah, I mean, there's the external recruiting side in the world. Then there's the internal recruiting side, which you covered as well.
Yeah.
But just the internally marketing by making sure that you give people opportunities to obviously grow within the store, but also just so everybody feels like there's a purpose for being here.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's huge to be able to build that internal culture, and it's going to shine out through externally as well. Do you guys do a lot of social media? Any of those events?
Yeah, when we're not canceled,
I know.
Yeah, like
we're
on we built it up to like 15 or 20,000 followers, and then it got taken away. We got it back. It got taken away again. It might be in the abyss at this point. I think Rain, to her credit, is always trying, but we do have social channels back up. They're purely focused on community outreach.
Yeah.
And some pop-ups and some branding, but we post absolutely no products.
Yeah.
We're literally, I think yesterday we posted like a strawberry shortcake recipe. Like
it's not very good vibes up front.
Yeah. I think it might have been in there. Like, I don't write that content, but if it's not, I'm going to tell them to put it in the blog post, because that would be perfect. But it's really leans into the community and the experiences that we're getting involved in and that we support. Because fortunately, we are sponsoring a fair amount of events, and when we can and when we think we're aligned. But social, we're back up and running, and that's where that said, though, you're a brand. Like, you're an awesome brand. I think social's pretty critical in a lot of ways for you. But I think you would agree, sales wise, it's not as important. It's not a mover. It doesn't move the needle for us. So when it goes down, it's frustrating. It sucks. And I just feel for my team, my marketing team now. I'm like, man, they put so much.
Tool they have. They put so much effort in.
Totally.
We actually, from the very beginning, our first marketing person, the one to go big on Instagram, and also I'm just like, it's going to get taken down, right? And built it up, got taken down. I'm like, well, at least we didn't spend that much time on it.
Yeah.
So I and ours actually just got taken down yesterday again.
I'm sorry.
Literally yesterday. We just got it back 2 weeks ago, and we just went back down. I think we have a really out.
Do you think of it as a competitor? Like, do you theorize that it's like a competitor? Yeah.
No, the reason why is because we haven't been posting anything new. It was just our content we already had up. We just remixed it and posted it. It was, if you approved us to come back on because all that other content was actually fine after all, we just remixed and reposted a bunch. We haven't even created anything new yet. Yeah. We haven't even started because it's only been a couple weeks since we've had it back. So yeah, I think that, again, unfortunately in this case, people look at us and they think, oh my God, they're doing so great. I'm so jealous and I'm going to go after these guys and I'm going to try to, sometimes we have to battle like a 1-star review with no comment. Yeah. And it's just like, what? Like, at least explain what that means. Like, what does that mean, Yeah. And so we'll go on Google reviews and we'll flag them ourselves and be like, well, I mean, it's probably not even a customer. It's probably just somebody who's just like, one of our competitors is upset. Totally. But again, we try to focus on what we're doing. But I do feel like, there is a little bit of that, I don't want to call it backstabbing, but there's an undercurrent of it's competitive and people are losing money. And, if you look at the headset data, which you had a headset for a while, like if you look at the headset data, you'll see what we're doing right now. Yeah. And you have every right to be jealous. That wasn't an overnight thing. Yeah. We've been doing this for 4 years at this point, and pivot after pivot. And beyond that, like, this has been created, the systems that we've built have been created very thoughtfully and purposefully. Like, you can't just create yours overnight and expect to compete with us. Like, we've been building this machine for a long time. It's a steamroller. Yeah. We're going to roll over you. Sorry. And I'm sorry of all the, ancillary effects that might have in your life. Yeah. That's not my problem. Yeah. Like, I'm here to win. So it's a game. Yeah, I'm here to win. Yeah. Sorry. So like, I apologize if if you lost your life savings over it. I don't know if that's actually the case, if that's what happened, but like, still. I went to Amherst College, played football there, was a captain, that whole thing, then played professionally overseas. And there was an alumni event in Boston last night that I attended, and it was wonderful. And I immediately got approached by 2 guys. They kind of know me as the cannabis guy, older guys. We're talking, they were in the class of the 80s. Yes. And they're like, I invested in this company. I invested in this company. I'm getting screwed. Help me. And I was like, and I know both companies. And I said, listen, I'm really sorry. Like, there's going to be winners and losers in this space. And some people took, a lot of risk and gambled. And I did too. I literally like cashed out my Schwab. I went all in, huge risk. I personally guarantee everything, but we've been really thoughtful. We've also had like incredible support. I graduated Amherst College with tremendous debt. And for a while I was like, was it worth it? It's one of the best schools. Mm-hmm. But man, I'm behind, and it really, when I started this venture, because I've done a few, actually, and I developed and sold a sock company. During that and during this, I said it was worth it. Having the resources, being able to tap on my friends, my teammates, the school, alumni, and get whatever, free legal advice or free accounting advice. Now, I mean, we pay. You have everything. Yeah, we have everything. But like early on, and like, what should the structure look like? Like, because you have co-founders.
Yeah, exactly.
Problem. Yeah, I've had that in the past. Of course, I've had co-founders.
Totally. And I'll say, people out there, like, when you're forming something and you're doing it with partners, like, be very mindful of what motivates your partners. Mm-hmm. Are you guys aligned on what the end goal is or possibly could be? Because everyone's a little different. Mm-hmm. But I just, like, my network, because of I also was fortunate enough to go to Tabor. I was Hull High, transferred to Tabor junior year, played football there junior, senior year, did really well, and then got hurt. And so I PG'd at Deerfield, which was awesome.
PG?
Postgraduate year.
Oh, okay.
So you do like I was already kind of young, graduating out of Tabor. And so I ended up playing for Mike Filippo, a legend. He actually coached my uncle, just like the most wonderful guy, probably, one of the best coaches I've ever had. So shout out to him. But, and then ultimately, went on to Amherst. But the networks that I've been able to be a part of and participate in, like, it all makes sense now. Like, yes, it was worth it. I paid off the debt. It was crazy. It was, but it's all, it put me where I'm at, and I'm pretty grateful.
Yeah, that was a big swing.
Yeah.
Right? That was a real big swing.
Yeah.
And I think that's the type of the mindset of the entrepreneur. Like, you have to have that ultimate belief that's going to work. You can't go in with like, fully anxiety, fear-based, even though entrepreneurship is highs and lows constantly. Like, we're crushing it, we're doing great.
You have to be delusional.
Like, oh my God, we're gonna lose. Like every day.
Yeah, you kind of have to. You kind of have to be delusional. You kind of have to have such a belief in yourself, and what you're building, that some would call it delusional. It's like, but I just knew in my gut. When we went all in, we started this thing in like 2017. I just knew it, man. I just I remember going to that like first municipality meeting in Williamstown, and just like the build up and the anxiety, and there were some pitchforks there.
Oh yeah,
but to Williamstown's credit, like, incredible community. Like, I think one of the first to be cool with it and be open to it, and we've just worked so well with them, and it's I'm kind of chasing that a little, you know what I mean? Like I love what I do. I'm so happy. I'm so grateful. And, but I miss some of that, like, I don't know, riskiness, like, you don't know, you're going into this, you don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
Well,
you must get a little bit of that when you're chasing these licenses and stuff like that. You're like, traveling, and you still have to appear probably in front of the towns and be like, hey, here's what we're doing and all this other stuff. But it's just more acceptable now, so they don't really push back as much, right? Yeah,
totally. And we're a respected brand. We pay our bills, and we operate the right way and with integrity. So, like, it's a much different narrative. And going in like, we've been operational for almost 7 years now. Yeah. And so it's different. But you still have to kiss the ring sometimes.
Oh yeah, of course.
And
that doesn't go away.
Yeah.
Only the ultra elite, billionaires don't have to do that stuff. Basically.
Totally.
But everybody else basically does.
Yeah, no, perfect example is like, the negotiations that are happening in Minnesota right now for properties. It's like, we're gonna have to, assuming we lock some in, I'm gonna fly out and I'm gonna meet with the local police department and the local fire department.
And you said you have like 5-ish.
So the way Minnesota rolled out is, we put in some lottery tickets for retail, and then we put in for some micro licenses. So family members on those licenses, through a micro license, you can only have one. So what we'll do is we'll just help, assuming all of those micro licenses come through, because it's not lottery based. We'll just have some friends and family that are operators, and we help them. Yeah.
Great. Okay.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to, I guess, future federal legality, if and when.
Yeah.
What's the game plan?
That's a good question. I mean, I think,
how do you see it rolling out even?
There's been so much effort and resources and time put into these local economies like Massachusetts. I mean, think about, the millions upon millions upon millions that have been spent, on developing the CCC, on rolling out regulations, on rolling out, testing, all that stuff.
And it's still not a done job.
It's still not done. It's still not finished. It's like the big dig, it's like,
it's never going to end.
It's like never going to end. So it's like, I struggle with the idea that like all of a sudden that's just going to be stripped away and federal, I think that on a state by state basis, we're still going to be, managing this industry.
Yeah. Well, because there still be municipal, because you can put anything in a bylaw, not allowed here. Just don't even show up, basically.
Exactly.
Don't even talk to me. Don't call my phone line. I don't want to hear from you.
Yeah.
So they can still zone it out, basically. But the way I've always been, and this is something I've held on to for the last few years, is I would love to see like a New England consortium or some kind of like Northeast consortium.
Yeah.
All Interstate is available to us.
That
would be great.
That would be awesome.
Because then it's just like, okay, so I don't have to have facility. I don't want to spot up a bunch of facilities everywhere.
Yeah.
I'm a product manufacturer, right? I'm a brand.
Yeah.
So if, co-packing being, a different case in this situation, but I don't really want to spend another $1 million building a facility in like Vermont for maybe not that much return on that because it's a home grow state, primarily. So I always loved the idea of having this kind of like interstate commerce clauses enabled in all the New England states especially, but extending down to probably New York, New Jersey, things like that, and just having the ability to just do interstate from there. So then we can always figure it out with similar rules. And then it kind of, everybody just kind of agrees. Because I know the CCC also has their counterparts, the OCM and stuff like that in New York. And I think OCM in New Jersey, whatever, or something like that. I can't remember the acronyms.
Yeah, it's like CCB in Vermont.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, what is Maine? I think OCM. There's so many acronyms, like, man. It's
but they all have a group above them that they all kind of like feed into, and so they always are doing this cross communication. So when I had Executive Director Travis Ahern on, we were talking a lot, like we talked a lot about what's happening obviously in Massachusetts, but he kept on referencing this other group basically that they all kind of participate in, and so they can all get in the same page with a lot of the stuff. So that's one of the reasons why some of the rules around maybe going, doubling the allotment from 5 make servings to 10 make servings, going from 1 ounce to 2 ounce as an allotment for per day per person. I think a lot of that stuff is being driven from outside, being like, well, all the other states are doing it now.
Yeah, like, totally. Like Maine, Maine it's really interesting. You've carved out something really special here with like the 1,000 million. Seriously, like genius. I mean, it's incredible.
Took a lot.
Yeah,
we had a battle for that, but
it was worth it.
Yeah, 100%.
It was transformative. Like in Maine, I think the most anyone edibles package or syrup, whatever, could be 200 milligrams.
Right. And that's the adult use side.
Of course, yeah. I mean, and to kind of go back a little bit on the federal side, like we were deliberate in opening that cultivation in Maine when we held the license, because we thought, okay, Maine's cheaper, the real estate's cheaper. Maybe we can buy the building at some point. It's going to be cheaper for us to cultivate up here. So in the future, if we want to distribute to our other retailers in Massachusetts, in Vermont, in New York. That was gonna be it's just Maine grown. Like people love.
Yeah, that's a thing.
It is so a thing. Like people love Maine wheat.
Yeah.
Just like people love Maine beer. You know.
Maine blueberries.
Same with Vermont. You know what I mean? Like people love like Hetty Topper, and when I visited our Brunswick facility, or the Brunswick facility, I went to Maine Beer Co. I brought my cousin's an investor, the solar, Galen. He owns Brooklyn Solar Works. And it was his 40th this weekend. So he's an investor in Silver Therapeutics. So he'd never seen the grow. So we were in Vermont over the weekend, and we took the Kangamegas over. Nice. And stayed in Portland, and I brought him up to Brunswick. And, as someone who's in like they're basically a construction company, so he's very hands-on, and he was so impressed, to like see that grow and the products that are being produced. And Maine's a special place. There's some really incredible cannabis up there.
But imagine that. So you have a cultivation in Maine.
Yeah.
Now it's interstate wide. We're like kind of all to our own island over the Northeast area. Yeah. You can kind of transport freely across these state lines. Yeah. I think that will just be for everybody wins in that case.
100%.
I mean, of course there will be some losers, such as, so not everybody wins, but most people will. The people who have signed, kind of optimize and created systems for that financial fiscal responsibility to take advantage of things like this. Whereas there are going to be some stores who are just like, oh man, like now I can't, whatever. Like there's going to be some person who's going to be upset about it, I'm sure. But nobody's ever 100% behind all these things. Yeah, like Williamstown's a good example, right? Like we benefited from all that border traffic, and then it kind of got siphoned out, and it I wouldn't say it like humbled us, but it was a reality check. It's like it did demonstrate too, like, even if you provide the best products and the best experience and the best pricing, if you're an hour away from someone, like they're just not going to do that drive. What is crazy is that people still do that drive to us though. And it's primarily on Fridays and Saturdays. Desert deal. Not deals, but what do you want to call it? Well, it's just people aren't working. It's like, you know what I mean? They like have a half day on Friday or took Friday off, and Fridays and Saturdays at that store are still crazy. Like I can't believe it, Yeah, because I think about those kind of border state stores as those, as the other states next to them start to legalize. We were expecting kind of a hit with Springfield. We're like, our sales in Springfield are going to go down because Connecticut is going to go adult use and all this other stuff. Hasn't happened. They fumbled the ball down there. Yeah. I think you have to have black and white packaging. You can't have strain names. Brutal. It's just like, what are we doing? Yeah, it's brutal. Like, why is it such a like, I don't understand still to this day. And again, they have this, this group above them where all the regulators can talk to, like the CCC and the Connecticut version of that. And they can all talk about like, hey, this is just sane, kind of regulations. And they just went hard in the paint with the regulations. We're like, why? There's no reason to.
It makes no sense. I still don't understand it. I mean, a place like Connecticut, a state like Connecticut, they have the benefit of seeing what works and what doesn't work.
They came way later. They can see.
Yeah, and I'm just like you said, they fumbled it. I can't comprehend how they fumbled this so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyways, with interstate commerce in the Northeast at least, I think that would do wonders for a lot of the operators around here, because people who have been here, who have been fiscally responsible, who actually have strong brands or strong names behind them, should be able to prosper. And, again, if you really love Maine weed, it'd be great to get that in Massachusetts somewhere, right?
Maine grown, man. People love it. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Jason. This is always grateful. It's always wonderful to connect with you. Congratulations on what you've built. It's really special. And on behalf of our organization, thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much. And thank you for being a great partner to us as well.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.